Good afternoon, everyone. Let's light the fire, virtual one, on this fireside chat. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And thanks all of you for being here as well. You probably know, I'm not going to repeat that, but let's get this party started. Before we talk about post-purchase, I wanted to ask these guys a question around purchase itself. Let's just talk about that for a little bit. And prior to this, we were chatting a bit, so this may be a little bit of a repeat, but you know, today the consumer can shop you anywhere. It could be Instagram, it could be YouTube, it could be your own website, it could be your marketplace, yada, yada, yada. How do you make sure you do that efficiently from an inventory perspective? And Ranjan, you were telling us a story that was really fascinating. I thought it would be good for the audience to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Prateek. So I think one of the key thing is from a retailer's perspective, the biggest investment that you do is in inventory. How do you leverage that inventory to the most in terms of being able to generate the best possible sale and revenue from that? And how quickly can you move your inventory across your channels? That has been the key in the past. Gone are the days when you used to block inventory for different channels, an online channel inventory, an offline channel inventory, a distribution channel, a trade business. It's not sustainable. What does that mean is you have to leverage your inventory or your investment into the inventory to the maximum, which means that's where technology starts playing a large role in terms of breaking those silos, one, and then amplifying the whole inventory in terms of being able to display that same inventory and make it available for multiple channels, multiple partners at the same time, so that you have the higher propensity to be able to sell. We've been able to do that very, very efficiently in the last couple of years, 2.5 years, where we've run multiple projects to be able to do this. We've used a set of technologies. One partner, obviously, is been Unicommerce, who has been a player in terms of doing that. They helped us do that. Where at same inventory, we've been able to track from an online perspective alone. So imagine I have 100,000 inventory. I'm able to display an inventory of nearly about 500,000 inventory for that same 100,000 inventory, which is the 5 times is what the efficiency is what I'm gaining today. And we are further talking about improving that as well. And that's the game changer where you are able to make more money out of that same inventory, because that inventory sitting into your distribution center, into your stores, doesn't make sense.
It's a beautiful story. Kapil, you want to add to that? Just a quick amplification. I think you just heard a big spark from him around how to make your inventory work 5 times harder. Yes.
I just wanted to add examples about brands who are doing it maybe 17 times more. So there is a brand called XYXX, which is selling on 17 plus marketplaces. And that's really the power of technology. You're not limited by the number of channels that you want to sell on today. And compared to 2017, today there are so many avenues for brands to expose besides Instagram, social commerce. There are so many marketplaces itself today that a brand has access to. And that's why technology is playing an even more important role, we feel, compared to pre-pandemic, is what we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the number of channels where the consumers would want to engage with your brand, purchase it, talk about it, is only going to continue to multiply. And the brand will want to continue to be wherever the consumer is at. So that gets us to, you know, for me, the purchase cycle almost feels like it has the thrill of the chase. So you do discovery, you shop around, you figure out, and then you put it in the basket. What happens after that is actually the tough part. You wait for that product as a consumer, then you get it, you unpack, you wear it, don't wear it, figure out if you want to use it or return it. How do you keep them engaged through that post-purchase experience? Really makes a big difference, and you both have done it so well. Can you share some examples of how that's done? Maybe we begin with you.
Yeah. So as you rightly pointed out, I think in the early parts of e-commerce journey was largely about acquiring customers, making sure that you're able to show revenues. But now it's a lot with increasing pressures on unit economics, profitability on DTC brands. I think more and more brands are realizing that post-purchase experience is probably more important than just acquiring the customers. It is the repeat purchase that you have to drive. And technology obviously is playing a critical role. I think compared to earlier years, what has changed is that there are now a lot of technology providers that are available. So it's largely plug and play for a brand. A brand today just needs to worry about the product and the consumer. Rest technology is there to take care of everything from a post-purchase experience perspective. And today the consumer has also become much more demanding. They want to know when the product is going to get delivered. Am I getting the right product at the right time? You have to coordinate on last mile. You have to make sure that, particularly in categories like fashion, you have to make sure that the right product is getting delivered. There are no size mismatches. In FMCG, you have to worry about near expiry products are not getting delivered. So that's why, to ensure that the consumer demand, which is increasingly becoming more and more demanding, you're able to meet and constantly communicate with the consumer throughout all the legs. Technology is available at every leg, and that's what we have seen in not just large D2C brands like Mamaearth, Boat, with Bestseller obviously, but also offline first brands like FMCG brands like Marico, Imami, etc., who have invested in the D2C side of the business and have been able to do so because of technological interventions that have been available on every leg of post-purchase experience.
Yeah, so I think I'll just add to that. What Kapil said was the customer is becoming more and more demanding. One of the biggest demand is about time and speed. How do you cater to that time and speed, that information in terms of every stage of the journey post-purchase? And that's the key, because that's where technology and a lot of, there are multiple players who play a role in terms of stitching that whole story, in terms of making that inventory available, because you need to find the best possible place where you could pick up that inventory, deliver to the fastest to the consumer. And in case there's a return, be able to again pick up the inventory back from the consumer and get the refund process done. That's where the loop gets closed. It's so easily said. There are about 3 to 4 steps that we're talking about. There are multiple steps that gets involved, and that's where many more players actually start playing a role in being able to deliver that entire experience to a consumer. And that's the way how you are able to retain a customer, because you don't make money by selling him once. You only make money when you retain that customer and the customer keeps coming back to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Mic up, is it okay? Yep. I'm a big believer of delivering experiences that are not only really desirable for the consumers, but also feasible and financially viable. And you deliver experiences that make money for the organization, or experiences that are sustainable. And by making your inventory sweat more, you've talked about one of the big ways to leverage that. The other big angle of revenue leakage is returns. Could you talk about your experiences or takeaways for this audience around how are you seeing in this day and age tech being used for managing returns better?
I'll go first. So on returns, I think it's as they say, it's a necessary evil in e-commerce. It gives convenience to the consumers, but obviously it's a drain on the brand. And returns are also 2 types, which is consumer initiated as well as RTO, where the delivery couldn't happen to the consumer. It is the second where actually more and more innovation we are seeing happening, where technology providers are investing behind how they can optimize on RTO reduction by, given now that we have 10 years of data, like Unicommerce has been around for 10 years,
yes,
we have obviously access to information how the propensity of a particular address being high RTO risk, and that visibility can be given to brands to kind of reduce that risk. Similarly, technology interventions on making sure error rates are reduced. You are able to adhere to delivery times. For example, even in discretionary categories like fashion, what we have seen is if a delivery time increases by 1 day, the chances of RTO increases 3 times. So how can you invest in technology to make sure you are able to shorten the delivery times, reduce the error rates, so that even consumer-initiated returns can reduce? And I think that's a big focus area. It was a big focus area for marketplaces in the early years, and now it's a big focus area for D2C brands and offline-first brands to actually ensure that they're able to reduce this.
So I think return has always been a pain for a brand. I would say it's a pain actually, because it's a huge cost in terms of getting the merchandise back. And the second is also, even if you have to get the inventory back, how do you make it available again for a resale? That process itself is a very, very long process from a fashion perspective. We've been able to crack a few things, but that's always an ongoing thing. One of the biggest pieces that we've been trying to do is how do we ensure that the customer actually gets the right product? But that's solving half of the problems of return, because most of the times customers actually return because they didn't, either the fit was not right, the size was not right, and we've been able to largely solve that problem. Are we 100% there? We're not there. But we still, that's a work in progress. But the other piece is also about solving a problem is around returns, is about creating a lot of evidences at different places. So one of the things that at a distribution center level that we've done is every product that comes back as a return, the entire packaging is done under opening of the packaging, and the entire process is processed under video conferencing, because you need to provide evidence to a lot of customers. Because there are wrong products which keep coming back, and that's a huge cost. We've seen huge numbers growing up during COVID, where wrong return products have kept coming back to us. So trying to solve a lot of problems. There are a lot of areas, a lot of things that needs to be solved, but I think it's a work in progress for sure.
Yeah.
I just want to add one more thing on the leakages. Another thing, particularly for marketplaces, is that many a times it happens that a marketplace may mark a product as returned, but physically the brand doesn't receive the product. And that's a big inventory leakage. And that's, again, areas where technology helps to plug that leakage. In one of the examples, again, for Mamaearth, when we had done the implementation, we had actually seen through technological interventions, they were able to reduce their returns by 1/4. And that's actually in a category where it's not as high as fashion, let's say. Even there, they were able to implement technology along with Unicommerce to bring down these returns. So that's the power that technology brings and brings the benefit to the brands as well as the end consumers.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for sharing those. And from my experience, we've seen using data and analytics for figuring out which product categories are prone to more returns, and then understanding the consumer sentiment behind those returns, and then working backwards with making the product right itself, buying right, then helping the consumer buy right, reduces returns. So actually, the cost of returns, the key to that lies all the way from purchasing the product and in the purchase cycle, and not just post-purchase. And I know technology enables all of that. Speaking of all of that, what do you think, could you help put in perspective, what can we do now that we couldn't have done in 2020?
I'll go first, yeah. As a retailer and as a brand. I think if you would have asked me 2 years back, my biggest challenge was onboarding a marketplace. It used to take me about 3 to 4 months. Today I take maybe a week and a half max to onboard a marketplace, because most of the connectors are built. The ecosystem is ready. Onboarding a logistics service provider was the biggest challenge at that point of time. Today it's no more, because you have a lot of connectors again available there. Being able to bring in add-on products which will solve smaller problems and then create huge experiences on the platforms, we've been able to do that today, because they never existed at that point of time. So there are many, many small areas that has been solved for today which was not existing in 2020.
Just to add to that, I think compared to 2020 today, I think the ecosystem, as Ranjan pointed out, has become more mature in terms of marketplaces, logistics providers, where different players are coming together to collaborate and offer a unified experience to brands as well as end consumers. Also, we feel that e-commerce brands have also become a lot more mature now in terms of setting up processes, investing in technology. And we are seeing a fundamental shift, particularly post-pandemic, wherein, for example, consumers were always omni-channel, right? They were always researching online before buying a particular product, whether it's electronics, fashion, etc. But now brands are also realizing that they have to be omni-channel. Bestseller is a classic example where they were at the forefront of this innovation. But many other brands we have seen are now warming up to the idea that I have to be available where the customer is present. This wasn't as a conversation back in 2020. We were the ones chasing brands that this is the reality, you have to invest here. And post-pandemic, what happened? We got a lot of inbound inquiries that we now want to make it happen. How do we make it happen? I think that's a fundamental shift that we have seen. And particularly because of availability of tech providers now, I think it is much more seamless for a brand. Like I said, they don't really have to worry about getting everything together. There are enough and more providers available. I think brand today really needs to care about the right product, differentiation, and the consumer. And that's all. I think that has truly simplified in the last 2 years is what we feel.
So Kapil, your life has become better, is it?
Much better, yeah. As a consumer
and
as a provider.
It is better to be a tech platform provider as well now, versus being a retailer. But also for you, almost around time. Yes, sure, we can figure out. I wanted to pick your brain on what is coming next? What are you getting up and getting really excited about it? What does the future hold? How else are we going to use technology? Crypto's shut for now for a bit in India, but so maybe let's not go to Roblox or Metaverse for a bit, but maybe if you want to. But in the post-purchase experience, what does your crystal ball say?
I think some of the trends that we had seen post-pandemic, like going omni-channel, going D2C, I think will continue. Some of the new trends that we are seeing emerging is one, consistently in the last 3 years, we've seen tier 2, tier 3 towns demonstrating growth, almost double that of tier 1 towns. So, we see a lot of D2C brands and traditional brands also investing in the tier 2, tier 3, which will mean newer logistics challenges, warehousing challenges, etc. from a post-purchase experience. Second, we are seeing a lot of Indian products aspiring to be global. A lot of traditional brands were already global, but a lot of these new age D2C brands are also looking to go global, and not just in nearby markets, but also developed markets. That's another trend where we'll see a lot of innovation happening. And third is, I think we will see on the post-purchase experience side, I think the basic building blocks have already been built now. Now, everybody's challenging on the newer areas. So, for example, augmented reality and all of those, when things are going omni-channel, while these were fads, these continue to be fads so far, but I think now we are seeing that convert into reality. Like omni-channel was a fad 3 years ago. Everyone was talking about it, but nobody was implementing it. Similarly, we feel now, I think the next level of question is being asked from the brands, from the tech providers, from the consumers, and I think that's where the next level of innovation is going to happen, is what we feel.
Okay, thanks, Kapil. Ranjan?
I think the biggest change now that's going to come in as a brand, as a retailer that we look forward to is being able to serve a customer as a unit of one. Being able to customize my services, my products to the unit of one for an individual at the time he wants it, at the place that he wants it to be delivered, rather than limiting him in terms of channels, limiting him in terms of places that I can deliver. I think that's, and if you remember, one of the discussion that we were having before this session was, imagine you coming from Bangalore today morning and you arrived at the airport and you realize that you did not have today evening is a party that you need to attend to and you don't have a shirt for it or you don't have a dress for it. How could I deliver? You placed an order there at the Bangalore airport while you landed in Mumbai. How could I deliver to you at the airport something that you wanted to wear for the evening? I think that's where the world is going to move. And we obviously have been trying to solve those kind of problems because these problems are real.
Brilliant, where your shirt shows up when you want it versus you having to carry it around in your suitcase. All right, perfect. I think that brings us to the end of this quick fireside chat. Thank you both very much.
Thank you so much, Prateek. Pleasure.
Thank you, Prateek.
Pleasure.